Hello, good evening and welcome back to the Mattioli Arena here in Leicester for the Victorian Plumbing UK Championship qualifiers. This evening's session sees the commencement of round 3 matches as we edge closer to uncovering the 16 successful graduates from these qualifiers to earn the right to take on the top 16 players at the Barbican in York come Saturday when the main event starts. There is actually still one round 2 match to be decided, and that's actually a deciding frame between Tian Peng Fei and Chris Totten, which they wasn't actually able to finish that match earlier on. So that game will come back when the next available table becomes available this evening. This one, a very interesting encounter. Rory Thor enjoying a spell this season of some big scalps. He's going to have to make another one this evening if he's going to come through this match. Thank you once again for your company here on Discovery Plus and the WST Facebook and YouTube channel. It's another jam-packed evening of action ahead for us. It's been non-stop so far and it continues to come thick and fast. Phil Yates will be with us again very shortly, so no need to send out a search party for him. He's actually gone for a lay down in a quiet, dark room after that gruelling affair we've just seen here on table 1 between Stan Moody and Dwayne Jones. Stan eventually coming through that 6 frames to 3. I get the feeling that this match will be a much more free-flowing affair. Got plenty of big hitters on display all across the arena this evening. Of course, Jack Lisowski being one here on table 1. Got former world champion Stuart Bingham over on table 3, World Championship runner-up Jack Jones on table 2. The likes of Stephen Maguire as well, Jackson Page, Fang Zhengyi, Elliot Slessor. So many good players here. These qualifiers are really good value actually. £12 for the day. You can get yourself down to Leicester and see all the action, roam around, see all the tables as all the results come in. We'll do our best to keep you up to date with the results as they come into us as well. As I say, these round 3 matches, the penultimate rounds, winners of these matches will be booking their place in Judgment Day. Everyone wants their name in the hat for that day. Give yourself a chance of qualifying for the main event. The Barbican in York, an exceptional venue. Great time of year to be travelling to that city as well. It's a beautiful city. Of course, this is the second biggest event on our calendar.
Rory Thor, 8.
Rory Thor came through his opening match against Zach Surety yesterday evening, played quite nicely. There was a spell during that match in the middle. I was actually in the arena myself. It got very edgy, as you would expect. The high pressurised matches, there's a lot at stake, a lot of ranking points, a lot of prize money. Came through the victor, nonetheless beating Zach 6 frames to 4. He's been ranked as high as 74th in the world, Rory Thor. He's currently ranked 77th, so that does show the improvement he's made this season. He's gradually climbing those rankings, and a deep run in this event would surely see him surpass his highest ever ranking to date. And as I just briefly alluded to at the top of the show, he's had a couple of big scalps this season. They came in the British Open, beating Mark Williams 4-1 in the qualifiers. He then went on to beat Neil Robertson 4-3 at the venue in Cheltenham before falling short of the Wizard. And as always in these tiered structured events, the seeded player coming in later in the round, the higher the ranked you are, the later you come into the event, which is all well and good. It all sounds nice and cosy, that does, but there's a lot of pressure on Jack Lisowski this evening. The stakes are increasing all the time. Rory Thor's on prize money and ranking points. Jack Lisowski is on the guaranteed money, but he has to win this match as the seeded player to get those ranking points on his tally. Both players are sat on a nice 5,000 at the moment, ranking prize money. So the victor of this match will be on a guaranteed 7.5, £10,000 to the 16 players that qualify for York.
7.
So there is so much at stake, and it's always worth keeping that in the back of your mind when you're watching these matches, because that's what makes it all the more impressive. Some performances that these players put in, there is so much on the line. And I'm not just talking about the higher ranked players, the seeded players, in particular the lower ranked players that might not necessarily be accustomed to earning this sort of money, not used to getting these sort of ranking points. It takes a lot of courage to put in a good shift out there in the arena. It's a very difficult place to be at the best of times, and Rory Thor has let up a couple of early opportunities in this match so far, in this frame, sorry, so far. Very important first frame, this, as always, to get just a little foothold in the match. Just ease yourself into it, calm any early nerves that may be there, because no doubt they will be there. And a trademark shot selection there from Jack Lisowski. Never shies away from playing the aggressive shot. Left himself purposefully low on that red to bring more reds into play. Never shies away from getting through the reds, but he needs to follow it up with a good pot on this blue. Yeah, and it's made the difference. He wasn't quite able to keep full control over where that cue ball was going to end up, having gone through the reds, and left himself a testing blue, one that he hasn't come up with the answers for. Well, considering how poorly he played the initial red, he followed it up very nicely with that pot on the black. Not the sort of shot you want to leave yourself so early on in a game, especially after the couple of chances he's squandered so far. Been an edgy start to this one for sure. But you can guarantee that as the players ease up and the tension starts to leave them, it's probably going to be a free-flowing match this. They usually are when Jack Lisowski is involved. His style of play, that's how he likes to play the game. Quick start for Elliot Slesser over on table 4. He's in straight away, already over the line on the century tally for the first frame, 105 and counting against Longzi Wang, so 0 messing around from Slesser on table 4. We've got an all-Welsh tussle on table 7 as well.
31.
Big Jamie Clark taking on Jackson Page for bragging rights over in Wales. Big match that for Jamie. He was very edgy yesterday in his opening match, as you would expect. As I say, there is a lot of pressure. He really put himself through the ringer last night. Came through having been pulled off. Takes on Jackson Page, fellow countryman.
$39.
Now it's 30 points to the good here, Jack. He needs another couple of reds. Just having a look at that red to right middle potentially. He has got an angle on this red. Well, he's going forward for the black, so he must fancy that red can be dropped into the middle pocket. He does have an angle to screw this red in and just promote that red next to it, should he wish, but it looks as if he's choosing his first option. Well, he's landed in a spot here that is just no fun at all. The clip back to the green bag is a nasty old shot. Now, does the red pass the green and brown into the yellow pocket? I believe it will, just. Yeah, well, he's played that very nicely indeed. Never easy then when you're cutting them back. It was a completely blind pocket, Jack. He had to fully rely on the line he'd selected for that shot. Played it well. So, glances at the scoreboard. He knows he does need a colour to get him over the snooker's required mark in this frame. But he hasn't landed on one, and he doesn't necessarily need to push the boat out here. Possibly time to just take your medicine. The play would be to push a colour safe. A little bit of insurance. Black to the top side rail. Well, he's got a delicate little shot here, Jack. Can he just push this red past the blue and lay up behind it? to rely on the table running true, and it has done. Hats off to the table fitters, because that one was a sort of shot early on in the game when you're just trying to gauge how the table's playing. Never quite sure, but clearly conditions are as you would expect.
Lisowski 5.
So he's got a massive target for a snooker in behind this blue, and he's pretty much put the cue ball exactly where you'd want it. Just push the red up the table. Try and get as tight as possible in behind that blue. Ideally with the red being close to green or brown.
Thor 7.
So there is an outside chance still in this frame for Rory Thor. He's got the snooker here. And should Jack miss this, even if he doesn't leave the pot on, there's another good chance. It's big target in behind green and brown as well. So many options here for Rory, and that's, well, a long way off. Difficult shot to judge that, trying to bounce it into this top cushion. Any sort of unwanted side is always going to straighten or widen it up. So now it's just about biding your time. He's got the snooker required. He can take red and pink and still win the frame. Doesn't need the black, but some more penalty points here will help. That's very handy, and that one will be going back. The penalty points there just giving Rory options of a colour to take off the red now. He doesn't need pink. He can take a brown, would be fine. Oh, Jack might be in trouble again after this next shot. Well, he's just lost control of the table now, Rory. It didn't look like there was all that much of a gap past the blue to even send the red through, so just slipped up a touch there, and okay, he's not left anything really for Jack. What he has done, though, is just gift back control of the table. So that mini crisis for Jack Lisowski has just been ended. Still very much in control of this frame.
Lisowski 5.
Well, Jack Lisowski having this replaced, and this needs replacing pretty accurately. Referee Andrew Barklam just replacing the balls here, and as I say, it's pretty important that he gets this one just right. Rory Thor is convinced that he's got an edge of that red available. He can obviously get to the red behind the blue cushion first, but he just needs to be mindful that he doesn't push that red onto a potting position. Well, this might be okay, that's fine. Austrian amateur Florian Nusler has got off to a good start over on table 8 against former ranking event winner Fang Zhengyi. Taking the first frame has Florian. He's won 2 matches already to get to this round, so he's enjoying a good week so far, a week he's hoping is going to continue. Good player, Florian. He has been for a while, actually. He's just never quite managed to get over that line in those matches to turn professional for the first time. Got absolutely no doubt he will get onto the Pro Tour one day. He's certainly knocking on the door. Well, he's had a bit of a result there, Jack. Those balls was flying round the table, as they often are when you're watching Jack Lisowski play. But he'll take that result. Again, maybe a thin edge available for Rory. Can he just chip this red in behind green and brown, get the cue ball round the angles? I think if you are going to have a prolonged frame in a match that is a best of 11, say, it would be the first frame. Both players happy to just see out this little safety exchange, try and get one over on their opponent, just again realise how the table's playing. But it looks like that mistake That safety error there from Rory could be the final mistake of this frame for him. Well, it isn't. Oh, dear me, look at the result he's had again. Jack Lisowski has had a couple of flicks in this frame. None bigger than that one. Well, maybe he didn't go for the pot. Maybe he went for the snooker. That is advanced. Currently ranked 21st in the world now, Jack Lisowski, of course, has been a member of the top 16 for a number of years. His talent certainly warrants a place in that top 16, but unfortunately the ranking system nowadays only reward consistency, and I think that is a key word that you would use for Jack Lisowski when you assess his performance throughout the course of a full campaign. Consistency. You can put in some performances that you just think, wow, how have you not won a tournament, a ranking event? How are you not at the top of the game? But there's just always that question mark around his game. Can he put in sustained performances for long periods of time that would warrant winning a big one eventually?
Rory Thor 5.
Of course, he's been on the receiving end of 6 ranking finals to date. That was a very close call there as well for the miss. The blue and red were very nearly hit simultaneously. Well, they're not quite right, I don't think, because there was a bigger gap.
The gap if like this cannot hit the blue like this. Yeah, so there's a little bit more space. More space. And then maybe the red is a tiny bit as well. I think the red. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
Well, both players in agreement that that's not far off. He was always going to be playing the same shot again now. That cue ball going in has now given a chance for Rory Thor. He's accumulated a number of penalty points already in this frame. Remember, he did need a snooker as well. Got that and now sits only 25 points adrift. Regardless of what colour he takes off this red ball, he will need that black. So does he make the decision to try and promote it here? It's a free shot to try and do that. The green's hanging over the middle. No, he's decided against it. The black's not in too bad of a position for a potential double should he get to that stage. So he might be inclined to just leave it there and take the gamble on the double. But this yellow needs cueing well first and foremost. And he hasn't cued it well. It was a bit of a stretch, that, with the added weight on the back of the cue with the mini butt. So it's been a strange old opening frame, edging close to 30 minutes of live play, which is not a common occurrence for a frame that involves Jack Lisowski. Still, every frame, regardless of the format, regardless of how long the match is, these all matches are best of 11, first to 6 still. Every frame is so important. We've already seen matches turn by one shot here or there so far this week, and as I say, these frames are all very big. So another chance for Rory now. Just looking for one good shot here. The green's sitting waiting. Looks pretty routine to pot these next 4 colours. Surely this opening frame is going to come down to that final black now. Well, he's took the gamble, and what a shot he's played. He had a nice angle on that green to go close to that black. That brown was in the perfect position. Really, any sort of contact on the black, and he obviously fancied having a shot at this brown. He couldn't have played it any better. He's got a little angle on it too to come down for the blue. Brilliant vision from Rory Thor. He's not out of the woods just yet. Surely this blue will be frame ball if he can knock this in and get pretty much straight on the pink to middle. He'd love to just be slightly low on this blue. Nothing really to do with the cue ball. Well, you can see he's a little bit awkwardly straight there. Just setting himself a little bit uncomfortable with the shirt and bow tie, just doing the right thing, making sure he is comfortable enough to get down and play this. This is a big shot. Yeah, and he struck it nicely. He's absolutely perfect. So this opening frame really has had a bit of everything. We talk about all the drama that's ahead of us this week. Well, we've seen a bit of drama in this opening frame. Rory Thor, remember, needed a snooker. Jack Lisowski has taken a couple of shots on that he didn't necessarily need to do, but Rory Thor has stepped up and got the snooker, and he's taken the opening frame over jackpot Jack Lisowski. Just a little marker laying down the point that he is involved in a match and he can't take on those shots, and he isn't going to get away with it. Rory Thor, 1-0. So back from a lie down in a quiet, dark room after that absolute gruelling affair a few moments ago here on Table 1. Phil Yates joins me. An absolute pleasure to have you back, Phil.
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, no lying down for me. As anyone who knows me well will know, I don't miss many meals, and I was determined not to miss that one. So I had some pizza and a chocolate bar, and I'm raring to go again. As for Jack Lisowski, well, he got one hand and several fingers on that frame, but he couldn't quite close his grip. So Rory Thor, who's been playing some decent snooker this season, had victory over Mark Williams at the British Open, I think the most notable. I think his only problem at the moment is clothing. He's been messing around with his collar. Clearly doesn't feel right. I'll tell you what he looks like, one of those people at school who've had a little bit of itching powder put down their back. Now, Jack Lisowski has got the ability to not just qualify for this tournament, but to go on and win it. What a story that would be if he finally were to break the hoodoo and capture a world ranking title for the first time. If he does so, that wouldn't just mean UK Championship glory, it would mean a place in the Masters. He's got a lot of work to do to be there, but no work involved for those who want to go to the Masters and indeed the World Championship on a VIP package. It's the ultimate snooker experience. Luxury Century Club packages are available at both venues, Alexandra Palace and of course the Crucible. You get food, drink, best seats in the house. You get to meet some of the snooker celebrities. And at this time of year, I was mentioning this afternoon, Stephen, just 5 weeks and 2 days to go till Christmas. What a great Christmas present that is for someone who loves the green-based game.
Yeah, brilliant. I'd love to wake up on Christmas morning with a VIP package. That's for sure. That really is a good experience for somebody. And having watched the Masters, never been to the Masters myself, never been to Alexandra Palace, but I love what they've done with the event. That little VIP zone with the sofas and the little Century clubs and stuff they have now. Great little concept and just really enhances the experience for the people coming to watch the snooker. It's great to see the game sort of progressing to that level on the table and off it as well.
Super pot from Rory Thor, and coming off the pack to buffer the white, as it were, and dropping ideally on blue or pink. First Masters I went to, Stephen, was 1977. I was 14. My father took me.
7.
And we got tickets for the following year, actually. And we woke up on the morning we were supposed to go, and there was heavy snow on the ground. He said, "We can't go down there, son, not in this weather." I was devastated.
8.
We did go plenty of times subsequently, though.
(1977), of course, the year this event was first staged. Patsy Fagan lifting the title there. Who will win this event this year? Of course, defending champion Ronnie O'Sullivan. All the members of the top 16 will be in action at the Barbican, which will commence on Saturday. But these coveted 16 spots available from this week still very much to be decided. So much snooker to be played. So much pressure out there. You can really feel it out in the arena. The players, you can see some of them really putting themselves through it.
And you mentioned that first UK Championship won by Patsy Fagan. If you want to get your mates with a snooker trivia question, he's a good one, because obviously he's from the Republic of Ireland. He won the UK Championship, but he wasn't the first player from Ireland to win a world ranking event. That distinction fell to Ken Doherty. So how, you ask yourself? Well, when it first started, the UK Championship wasn't a world ranking event. It was only open to players who were either from the UK or resided here. Rory Thor.
29.
Well, it would help if this red does pop past the black, and he's obviously convinced it does. He's just able to open it up, but he's not played it well. He didn't have to take that red on at that stage, but felt that he was comfortable enough to be able to control the cannon to the black, but it proves he wasn't. The pot was no issue. It was the delicate little brush cannon to that black he had his focus fully set on. Yeah, and he's just tried to recover the situation there with that pink to middle. So after a couple of good early pots in that break, he's broken down pretty prematurely. I must say it's very early exchanges in this match, but there's been a couple of shot selections from Jack Lisowski that just make me think he may be vulnerable tonight. A couple of attempted pots in the opening frame and a couple of shot selections as well that again just raise that little question of him, but of course with Jack Lisowski's talent, as quick as we can write him off almost, he could turn it around in the blink of an eye and put a spellbinding performance in. But he's taken a couple of long ones on that, you know, very early on in matches and tournaments he quite often crunches them in. He doesn't quite look himself at the moment. As he entered the arena as well, he was sort of looking around and giggling. There was having a conversation, I presume, with someone over on table 2. Possibly just not all that focused for the time being.
I think if this were based on purely natural ability, it would be a foregone conclusion. But it doesn't work out like that. Rory Thor is a tough match player who could get a result here this evening. Especially given the start he's made.
Yeah, and I get the feeling with Rory as well. I've never actually played him myself, but I've watched and commentated on a few of his matches. I get the impression he sort of lures you into a false sense of security. Just how he sort of goes about his business. He kind of just trudges around the table, but make no mistake, he is a very, very good snooker player, as we've seen from a couple of his results so far this season.
18.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. He's deceptively good. Look what he did at the shootout a few years ago. He played Mink Nutcherud. She broke off. He cleared. Total clearance. in this frame, though.
23.
Lisowski has the chance to regain his mojo.
24.
Now, you see, that was a wonderful pot. I'm not going to praise him too much because had he missed it, we would have been criticising him.
Yeah, and that's exactly the sort of shot I was talking about, kind of almost taking liberties with the game. You know, he's obviously a very confident player, Jack Lisowski. He backs himself thoroughly to knock that type of shot in, but on the odd occasion when you do miss it, you end up losing the frame, and that is the difference with Jack Lisowski. But fair play to him for attacking. It's what he's always done. He's stuck to his guns, and you can't fault him for that. You can question it, but you can't fault him for it because that's the way he wants to play the game.
As he's reminded of on a pretty much daily basis, and he must be absolutely sick of it, he's never won a world ranking title. But in terms of ability, he's superior to quite a few players who have won ranking titles. But I'm not part of this crew who says, oh, he's bound to win one, and when he wins one, he'll win two or three or four. He's not bound to win one. That's the great uncertainty of sport. Do I think he'll win one? Yes. But there's no guarantee.
47.
No, you're absolutely right. There is no given right to any player to win a ranking event. Yes, Jack Lisowski, probably one of the most gifted snooker players we've ever seen in the history of the game in terms of raw natural ability. But unfortunately, that doesn't give you any right to win a tournament. You know, there's a lot more that goes into it than just raw talent. To win these big events, they're long, they're grueling processes where you're playing snooker for long days and long matches, and ultimately you require a number of ingredients to win the big events. But in terms of flair and natural talent, Jack Lisowski is certainly at the top of the shortlist.
He's like one of those golfers who hits the ball 350 yards, who's sharp with his irons, great with his wedges, holds putts, and you think, how's he not won the tournament?
61.
Well, I think he's going to win this frame.
63.
And again, just a demonstration, just reinforcing what I said about the fact he can just switch it on in the blink of an eye. This has been a pretty mesmerising break, actually. Some of the balls he's knocked in and developed off the cushion have been quite nice indeed, and that is the frame. Well and truly in the bag, just to level things up.
70.
One thing I will say about Jack, he's a smashing fellow. Good company.
Jack Lisowski, 70 and the frame.
It's a 70 clearance to the brown for Jack Lisowski. Will that get him revved up and going? We know it's got him back on level terms. Jack Lisowski equalises at one frame each. So what about the other scores this evening? Well, this year's World Championship runner-up, Jack Jones, just outside the top 16, so required to qualify. He leads Ian Burns 2-0. 2015 World Champion Stuart Bingham, who needs a UK Championship triumph to complete the career Triple Crown. He's 1-1 with an amateur, Oliver Sykes. Longzi Wang and Elliot Slesser 1-1. Steve Maguire won a tight opening frame against Latvia's Artemis Zizins. Now, though, Maguire leads 2-0. Daniel Wells and Jimmy Robertson 1-1. Jackson Page, good friend of the newly minted champion of champions, Mark Williams. He's 2-0 up on his fellow Welshman, Jamie Clark. And Austria's Florian Nürsler leads Fan Zhengyi, a former European Masters champion, 2-1. Good to see Florian flourishing.
Yeah, and he's been a great amateur player for a number of years now, Florian. As I mentioned briefly earlier, he's been knocking on the door of turning professional for the first time for a number of years. I recall a match, I'm sure it was against Alfie Burden in Q School a couple of seasons ago, where I believe he lost in a deciding frame, and Alfie came out in his press conference afterwards and said he'd actually just consoled Florian in the bathroom. He was in floods of tears, bless him, and it shows you what it means to the players, just how much they want it. And you know, you keep knocking on the door, you keep coming back for more, you put yourself through it constantly, and you know, hopefully, and I really do hope that he does get his reward one day, because he's a nice kid as well, Florian, great snooker player.
And there's quite a Q Sports heritage in Austria. I'm led to believe that Mozart played billiards.
You never fail to amaze me with your knowledge, Phil. We're actually going out to Austria in December for one of the Q Tour events, which the Q Tour is the secondary tour to the Professional World Snooker Tour. We've got an event in Austria for the first time in Vienna. Really looking forward to that at Christmas time as well. So, of course, the missus wants to come for the Christmas markets.
Well, funnily enough, I was looking at a YouTube video of the Christmas market in Vienna a couple of weeks ago. It looks spectacular.
Yeah, it's actually a shame that there's a snooker event to get in the way of that. Really looking forward to getting out there. I'm a big fan of the travelling that we have and the opportunities that we've got to compete in the UK and around Europe now. It's great for the game.
So just a reminder, this is the start of a brand new round this evening. This is the third qualifying round, penultimate qualifying round. And very interestingly, the winner of this match will take on Scott Donaldson or Bai-Yu Liu in final qualifying.
Which is possibly the story of the week so far, in my opinion. Bai-Yu Liu, the ladies world champion, playing some brilliant snooker, really mixing it with some of the best players in the world here in qualification. It was a fantastic win last night against Jamie Jones for her. I really do hope she puts in a good performance against Scott Donaldson.
When you play reds across the top cushion, you need to be accurate even at quiet pace. Thor wasn't quite accurate enough. And after getting his Q arm going in the previous frame, Lisowski is back in amongst them. He's got plenty of cue power, but he couldn't force the cue ball through that pack.
Yeah, it was a strange one, that. We're so used to that cue ball absolutely flying off the tip of Jack Lisowski, but it sort of just seemed to die off the reds there. I don't think Jack hit that one all that well, in fairness. He's definitely struck the ball better.
Yellow ball.
So he's nominated the yellow jack. He'd love a little half ball flick for the cue ball to go into Bork. Ooh, he's not too far away from that. He was always going to leave tempters for Rory, thought. With hand on table, you'd expect him to get close to one of these.
When Thor beat Mark Williams at the British Open in September, Williams was using a brand new cue. He wasn't used to it, and he played very poorly.
8.
Thor, though, did his job, got the win. Williams, though, stuck by the cue.
No.
And he used it last night to win the Champion of Champions. That's okay.
60.
That's more than okay.
$23. $24. $31. $32.
Again, wherever you are watching from, whether that be on Discovery Plus, Facebook, YouTube, WST pages, please feel free to get in touch with me on X at Stephen Horworth. Send in any comments, questions you have about the events, questions about the tour, you know, questions about the players. Let us know where you're watching from as well. We're always very keen and eager to see just how far the reach is. Really great to have your comments in and hear from you all. We obviously hope you're enjoying the coverage and will continue to do so for the rest of the week.
Good pot at a pretty narrow angle from Thor. His actual name is Thor Chuan Leong.
43.
Hails from the beautiful island of Penang.
$44. 49. $50.
I think the lesson here, don't take him lightly.
Yeah, and this chance has come from that little mistake that Jack Lisowski made a few moments ago, electing to try and top that cue ball through the pack of reds and get back out for a colour, bringing all the reds into play. There was nothing really doing with that cue ball, hit the yellow and then left the long red, and the rest has been history so far. Rory Thor just putting the final touches to this frame to re-establish a lead in this match. Remember, 4 frames to be played before a mini mid-session interval and then to a conclusion.
Of course, he has beaten Jack Lisowski before. A while ago now, 5-2 to qualify for the World Open in 2016. I think one thing that Rory has employed this season that's made him a better player, I think he's a little quicker around the table. Certainly when he's in amongst the balls, he's less ponderous. And I think that's always a good thing, don't you?
100%. I think fluency and rhythm is a massive part of the modern game now. I think too often players can almost be too cautious and kind of get in the way of yourself out there. I've been a victim of it myself in the past. You know, I think when you're in the flow, you're thinking well, you're seeing the shots quickly, just get on with it. You know, 9 times out of 10, the first shot you see is the shot you're going to play anyway. So it's important to try and build momentum, get a bit of rhythm going. That way you're able to score heavier, reel off frames quicker. It's what the best players in the world do. And you're right, he certainly does that now, Rory.
82.
Yeah, there's a perceptible difference, certainly when he's scoring.
Yeah, he had a spell on the tour from 2014 to 2020 where never really did that much damage, and it just looked like he was kind of just going to be a journeyman for a lot of his career. But when he fell off the circuit in 2020, I believe he took a little bit of time away, and it wasn't until 2023 that he actually regained his tour card. So I just wonder what he actually got up to in those 3 years where he wasn't really seen much of in the snooker scene. I'm sure he kept his arm going and practiced, but possibly just a change of mindset coming into this second lease on the professional tour. He certainly looks a much better player for it. And this has been a brilliant response to the mistake from Jack Lisowski.
And this is why you cannot, to use Stephen's terminology, take liberties. He can play.
Yeah, and Rory's a very stern character, and I just think that Jack Lisowski, he's trying his best to dictate terms dictate the style of play as he always does, but I'm sure that Rory will be more than happy to just keep chipping away at this match and feeding off the crumbs that Jack Lisowski leaves him.
117.
Well, this morning the standard of snooker on this table was exceptional. This afternoon, it most certainly wasn't. Tonight, it's gone back to being really good.
124.
And Rory Thor, in very stylish fashion, regains the lead with a big century. He's 2-1 up on Jack Lisowski. Now, if watching the qualifiers for the Victorian Plumbing UK Championship has whetted your appetite for the tournament itself, well, I can tell you that, yes, some sessions at the Barbican in York, as you might expect, are already sold out. Others, though, still have a certain amount of availability, and you can book from just £25, actually. There's also the 1875 club package. That's available from the quarterfinals onwards, where you can get a 3-course meal, terrific seats with a wonderful view of the action. You can also get a photograph of the trophy. You get to meet snooker celebrities and have a thoroughly good time up in York. And if you can't make the UK Championship, so many more tournaments to come this season. What about the Welsh Open in Llandudno, Players' Championship in Telford, and one that I think is improving all the time and gaining in stature, the Tour Championship. That's going to take place in early April, right in the centre of Manchester at a simply state-of-the-art facility. And if you want to go a little further afield, what about the German Masters in Berlin? The Tempodrome, the venue there, has to be seen and heard to be believed.
The fourth frame. Jack Lisowski to break.
Absolutely, the German Masters, without doubt, the Tempodrome Arena in Berlin, one of, if not the best venue that we do play at. I've been very fortunate myself to actually qualify for that event. I'll never forget that fantastic reception from the crowd playing Mark Selby on table 1. We'll not talk about the result because that doesn't matter. The experience was what counted that day.
You might not talk about the result, Stephen, but I think I might later on. Only joking.
Another thunderous long red from Rory finds its destination. The back of the leather. He's just overrun that one for the red past the pink. So again, after such a good opener, he will be slightly disappointed to see this break come to a swift end. But he has to keep his hopes high, keep the positivity good, because he's playing well. And he's got a chance now, if he can win this frame, to take a pretty commanding lead into this interval. It will certainly give Jack Jones something to think about. Jack Lisowski, sorry. Jack Jones is on table 2, currently 3-0 up over Ian Burns, but this is certainly a chance for Rory Thor to put some pressure on Lisowski.
Wow. Jack Lisowski 4.
Reasonable billiard shot, that. Week before last, Stephen, I attended the World Billiards Championship final, as you know. It was a really good occasion. David Corsier recaptured the title against a friend of yours.
Yeah, Rob Hall from Lincoln ended up in the final, didn't he? And it was, do you know what? I'm happy to sit here and say I was completely engrossed in that. I've never been one to really sit down and watch billiards. My coach, Roger Clark, as a junior in Lincoln, the coach that very much looked after Rob Hall for a lot of years. They both tried to get me into billiards from a young age, just not something I ever took to. For whatever reason, I just loved playing snooker and just thought billiards was not the way for me to go. But having watched that final that you did, I was really impressed with those guys. That is some game.
I've got a massive knowledge deficit when it comes to the shot patterns and all that kind of stuff. But you can't help but appreciate just how good they are. And that day, neither finalist played anywhere near their best, and it was still, at times, entrancing.
Yeah, I did a snooker exhibition kind of thing at the club where I'm based in Lincoln for the presentation evening they had, and they actually invited Rob along to do like a billiard demonstration as well that night, and I couldn't take my eyes off some of the shots he was playing, the ones where, you know, they're playing with so much side that it kind of arcs into the pocket, makes the pocket massive, and these guys are playing on star tables as well, and these tables are not big pockets, they're very tight, but the way they're able to generate the spin on the ball makes the pockets big. I was so impressed.
And of course the rules about scoring these days are tougher than they've been in the game's history. They have, every time they make 100 points in a break, they have to cross the baulk line. So to make a 200, 300, 400 break, as they do, you have to take on one very intricate shot. Corsia, though, this season, he didn't enter 2 tournaments down under, but every tournament he's entered, he's won. Now, fancy that in any sport, going completely undefeated for a season.
Outrageous, really, and I really enjoyed watching him play. Like, he's so quick as well. Like, he's absolutely rapid. He was tiring me out just watching him.
And if you did see that stream, again, I'll say, if you thought he was brilliant, or as Lisowski has a real slice of fortune, if you thought he was brilliant, that was nowhere near David Corsia at the peak of his extraordinary powers. Right, back from billiards to snooker. Now, will that fluke be profitable?
And we was talking about flukes earlier, wasn't we? And we've seen some pretty outrageous ones over the years. The one that stands out, Scott Donaldson's in Championship League. If you haven't seen it, then search it online, because you need to see it to believe it. But there was an outrageous one this morning from Xing Tong. It made that fluke from Jack Lisowski look pretty boring. And Rory Thor will be doing cartwheels back to the table to see it only suffer him a few points.
The trouble with Scott Donaldson's fluke, it will never be beaten. It was so outrageous. You must try and access it, because it defies belief. It's a little bit like Ronnie O'Sullivan being the youngest ever ranking event winner. You can't imagine that will be beaten. He was 17 when he won the UK in '93. But Donaldson's fluke, okay, that is not a record, it's just subjective. But if you ever see a fluke better than that, I'd be very surprised. Now that shot was Jack Lisowski all over. Just sloppy. So much talent, but he throws in a shot like that occasionally. And of course, at the top end of the game, it can make such a big difference.
Yeah, and even lower down now, the players, the standard is just so good that you're just not going to keep getting away with that type of mistake. Of course, Jack coming in cold into this event. This is his first match. Rory Thor with a match already under his belt, looking to hit the ground running from where he left off against Zach Surety yesterday evening.
cued across that one.
Rory Thor.
Slaps his thigh in disgust. And rightly so. That was his worst mistake of the match so far.
Yeah, he seemed to be up very quick off that one, but I'm completely convinced that was never in.
The yellow is awkward, the blue ditto off its spot. But Lisowski, with his cue ball control, has more than enough to work with.
We've had Snooker Pro tweet in on X to say that nobody actually ever remembers that result in Berlin against Mark Selby. Greetings from Berlin in Germany. Well, that's good to know. I'm glad that one's been erased from memory.
No.
Well, I know because it's best of 9 frames in that event. He got 5. I'm not quite sure what you got, Stephen.
It wasn't 0, but it wasn't many.
Now, that was a really good brown from Lisowski to partially retrieve the situation, but there's still a good one required here. Yeah, just floating the white through the gap. Excellent.
Yeah, nicely done, and you can just play a little holding cannon. Just looking to see if that red does pass, if he can just float the cue ball past the pink. If he feels it might be a little bit tight, he's got the opportunity to just play a holding cannon to the pink. Yeah, that's okay. So it's looking very likely we're going to be heading into the interval locked at 2 apiece, so it just tees up this game very nicely.
22.
I think Jack Lisowski will have plenty to think about at the interval. Okay, he won't be worried in the slightest, but his performance so far hasn't quite been there. But as all great players do, looking to just go through the gears as this match goes on.
29.
Try and play his way into this event.
30. 37. 38.
21st in the world, Lisowski, having enjoyed a spell in the top 16. And with prize money so prosperous these days on the tour, if you are in the 16, you're earning a pretty penny.
53. 54.
Well, this is chalk and cheese from this afternoon. Big breaks going in. And a very swift clip.
Jack Lisowski, 61.
The latest break is one of 61 from Jack Lisowski. And with that, he draws level at 2 frames each. Now, this afternoon, the interval entertainment was provided by Alex Hurricane Higgins. Our entertainment now for this interval will be from another Higgins, John, who engaged in maximum magic in the UK Championship in 2012.
That's more like it. And Mark Davis didn't get away with that. That's another bad contact. So I think you find though when you're not playing well, you're not striking the ball well, you do tend to get more kicks. Not saying it's all the player's fault, but I've always found that. You get a pure strike, you sometimes get a bad contact. That was a lovely strike. Got the right action at the cue ball there.
16.
Yes, I think of all the players on the circuit who play this wonderful game, I think it's probably John Higgins who's made more comebacks than anyone I've ever seen. We need a special one this evening again.
24.
Beat Mark Selby in the World Championships one of the years that he won. 12-10 down, he won 13-12 against Selby. And it's the best I've ever seen anyone play at the Crucible and lose that year, Mark Selby. He was absolutely sensational, and where John Higgins found that from, I'll never know.
25.
He's done it lots of times, and all the players know you have to beat him.
$32. 33.
For John's fifth black. I think he's just okay. I don't think about play for a black this time unless he just drops onto the top red of the two that's together. Yeah, that's the shot he's played, so
41.
maybe he's deciding. He's 5-2 down. He's going to pinch a few quid.
And you, of all people, can't have a go at him for that. You smelled the maximum. That was the
48.
first thing on your mind.
49.
Quite ironic if he went on to make one. You're saying
56.
he hasn't really had his shooting boots on this evening, certainly break-wise. Nice break of 47. If he does make it, it'll just be another 100 on top of that.
57.
Maybe it needs something like a maximum to sort of wake up John, wake up his focus. Still okay.
64. Yep.
Put the right hand side of these two reds and you'll just be following the cue ball through and cannon the other red. Stay on the black. You'll have to disturb the 5 reds at some stage because they don't pot.
I think it might be now.
Well, just wonder if he plays a cannon on the right red of the 5. The bottom red may go to left pocket, but he's got to remember he's got to win the frame first as well, so he's got to keep an eye on his black. No, in fact, he didn't have to play a cannon. And in potting this red, he's going to be disturbing the 4 reds, so this is a great chance.
$73.
Red to the left of the 4, will pot to the right corner.
Yeah, so this is one of the great advantages of having the open arena here. People on the other table are well aware of what's going on.
81.
A watch. You see the scoreboard and hear what's going on, so everybody transfixed by this.
Red to the left centre. They look to leave an angle in the black, I think. I don't think any of the 3 reds pot without disturbing them.
89.
Just sneaked into the right-hand side, so a cannon on the right-hand side red of these 3.
Yes, and the cannon has got to be quite firm here. Get the cue ball up the table a bit more. That's it, that's why he hit that a bit harder.
96.
Don't want to kick now.
97. 104.
Would like to play the red in the middle first, but I think it's too straight.
$105.
John's already made a maximum this season, of course, in the final of the Shanghai Masters. Needs that cue ball to run. Needs an angle.
112.
He's just off straight the wrong way. It's going to be a difficult black, I feel.
What a magnificent shot that is. Absolutely pure. Couldn't play that any better. Well, we said he needed something to happen.
120.
Get him in focus and ready for the rest of this match. And you couldn't do any better than this.
122.
Can you hold yourself together and make the maximum?
I always think this is the shot, isn't it? Get nice in the brown, you've done it.
125.
Now if he's dead straight, just has to screw back the side cushion. They should have a nice angle in the blue.
129.
Absolutely perfect. What a performance this is.
134.
Superb, John Higgins.
Coming up.
104.
Maximum break. Superb cue ball control all the way through. And a fantastic effort again.
Interval over, second half about to get underway. Jack Lisowski looking to pull away from Rory Thor, but I think 2-2 was a very fair scoreline. Both players contributed to a good first 4 frames. Now, before we get into the meat of this, let me give you the very latest scores from the other tables. Table 2, Jack Jones leads Ian Burns 3-1. Same score for Stuart Bingham over Oliver Sykes. Bingham made 129 break in the 4th frame. Elliot Slesser and Longzi Wang 2-2. Stephen Maguire 3-1 over Artemis Zizens. Same score for Jimmy Robertson against Daniel Wells. That was a thumper. Jackson Page, 3 half centuries in dominating against Jamie Clark so far. It's 4-0 there. And Fan Zhengyi and Florian Nursler 2-2.
I think 2 each is probably a fair reflection of how the game has unfolded so far. Rory nicking the opening frame, having needed a snooker. Jack has done what he does really when he gets in. He looks like he's going to win the frame. There's been the odd mistake. You know, Rory Thor does currently have the high break in this match, that magical 1-2-4 he made. But it's very much to play for. It's very difficult at this moment in time to pick a winner in this match, I feel. Jack would probably be slight favourite due to his ranking and the talent that he has, but as we say, Rory Thor is no pushover.
Rory Thor 4.
I think these opening matches for the seeded players are always a potential banana skin match. Not necessarily because, you know, if they don't win, they don't get the ranking points. You know, a player like Jack, he's so accustomed to earning the big bucks that won't phase him one bit. But just the fact he hasn't had a game in the arena, he's not played a match yet in this event. You know, I believe he's been over in the Far East, possibly living out there. I don't know. I've seen on social media that he's been out in Dubai a lot, practicing with Judd. You know, the travel as well. That all comes into play in how you perform.
You and I, Stephen, are going to be out in that region just before Christmas for the Golden Ball event in Riyadh. Really looking forward to that. It's a 12-player tournament for vast riches. It's the top 10 in the world rankings at the conclusion of this championship, plus 2 local wildcards. 3-day tournament. And of course, if somebody does pot the golden ball and makes a 167, it's the small matter of $1 million. Do
you think it will happen, Phil?
I don't, but it's one of those occasions where I really hope I've got it wrong.
Can you imagine the scenes if that gets potted? My goodness, imagine that. You'd want to be right behind it, wouldn't you, just to drop it down the cushion for £1 million.
Well, I'll tell you what, if somebody makes a 147 and gets to that point, regardless of what then happens, that will go viral. If someone pots the golden ball, yes, of course, millions of eyes will be trained upon it. If someone misses the golden ball for $1 million, well, I think that might be watched by even more people, just out of fascination to see what the reaction is.
It seems strange even saying this, but if you did make a max and miss the golden ball, you'd be absolutely gutted you've only made a 147.
Yeah, that really is a good point. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, great event, good fun as well, and really excited to get out there once again. And just talking of 147s quickly while we're on the topic, we've had another message in from Lee Seymour on X asking what our favourite 147s are. He says mine is the 147 that Ronnie O'Sullivan... Sorry, what is your favourite Ronnie O'Sullivan 147? His is his favourite against Mark King when referee Jan Verhaas has to ask Ronnie to pop the final black. Mine is the maximum that Ronnie made against Ding in the Welsh Open, where he potted probably one of the best shots I've ever seen in a maximum, the left-handed red right down the table through the gap between pink and black. That was certainly mine. What's yours, Phil?
Well, the obvious answer is the 5-minute 20-second 147 against Mick Price at the Crucible. But I think in terms of match significance, my personal favourite would be the one he made against Mark Selby in the UK Championship, when everything was on the line.
8.
And of course the highest break in this event carries a healthy pay package, £15,000 for the highest break. Currently held by Zhao Xingtong, having made an unusual 146. We have had 2 real good chances for maximum breaks in these qualifiers so far. Liam Davies missing the final pink.
13.
David Lilly yesterday missing the final blue as well. Surely there's going to be a 147 there. Pretty much is always a 147 in events now. The standard is so good.
Yeah, I'd say it was about even money. This more modest contribution ends at 13. Well, has he left a plant? If he has, that is a real mental lapse. No, doesn't like it. The UK Championship is a big enough tournament in its own right to be captivating. This year, though, a couple of really interesting subplots who will be in the top 16 at the end of it because they will be in the Masters. Who will be in the top 10 at the end of it? They will be in Saudi Arabia. So keep a close eye on those races.
There's always so many subplots throughout the season now, all these little lists that you keep in an eye on, always in the back of your mind as a player, like the Grand Prix, of course. That's going to be a huge event out in Hong Kong, the Players' Championships, the Tour Championships. There's so many cut-offs and lists that it's not always about the match that you're faced with in front of you. It's the knock-on effects that may come from winning them, as Rory Thor crunches in a really well struck long red.
At one point there, I thought the cue ball might go in at the most ridiculous angle. Thankfully it didn't, because that would have been the height of cruelty. Yeah, if somebody gets to the final of the UK Championship, you're not only playing for
6.
snooker history and one of the game's premier titles. But if you win that, you're in World Grand Prix, Players' Championship, Tour Championship, Masters,
7.
Saudi Arabia, Champion of Champions next year. The riches are endless, especially if somebody comes through from qualifying and were to win it. The pressure on them in the final would be immense.
Yeah, I had a great question in earlier actually about the prize money in snooker as Rory plays a terrible positional shot. He had so much room for error there. To land on the red is a really poor shot. But yeah, the question we had in earlier about prize money in general, I'd love to see a ranking list or a prize money list from the 2014 season when I first got on the tour, and to be able to compare it to now, because in my opinion the tour has never been in a better place in terms of the riches. The prize money seems to be growing and growing all the time. The question that actually came through was about
Lisowski 4.
the prize money being very top heavy, and I don't know what your opinion on that is, Phil, but I gave my views on it earlier about, you know, the top players in the world being enticed by those events, and of course the money distribution is being handed down to the lower ranked players in terms of these tiered draws now. But what's your opinion on it?
Well, first off, your opinion, you said about you think the game's in a better place than it's ever been before. Well, that isn't an opinion, it's a fact. It just is. Secondly, much like Barry Hearn, I'm a great believer in survival of the fittest, and if you do well,
8.
you deserve to get a lion's share of the pot. Obviously, you'd like to see more money for the lower ranked players,
9.
but there's an easy way to remedy that situation. Become a higher ranked player. And of course, you mentioned that year 2014. Back then, if someone had said
16.
to all of the players on the tour, we're giving you a £20,000 guarantee before a ball spotted, we're giving you pretty much wall-to-wall snooker, and we're giving you free entry fees. The landscape now is so much better than it ever was.
Yeah, and I can pretty much recall the expenses for those first couple of seasons that I played on the circuit must have been in excess of around £15,000 a year just to compete. That's before a ball's even been struck and before a penny's even been earned. So absolutely, what's happened in recent years with the guaranteed money and, you know, how it all works now is an absolute positive.
As you know, Stephen, I follow and work in golf, and you can play a season, say on the European Tour. If you don't make a cut, you don't win a bean. In this day and age, £20,000 equates to just less than £400 a week. Okay, with expenses and stuff, it's not a king's ransom, of course it isn't. But it's something. It's a big contribution.
Yeah, and you have to remember as well that we're playing a competitive professional sport. There has to be a line somewhere where that hunger to win matches, that desire to get up in the morning and practice properly, dedicate your life to the game and try and win those matches off your own doing, you know, that has to be there still. That hunger has to be there. You know, the players, yes, are being helped out with expenses now, which, as I say, is a great thing. It eases the pressure somewhat. But you would never, in my opinion, want to get it to the stage where players are just turning up, earning healthy money and not winning matches. That just doesn't sit right for me.
49.
Also, as well, in bygone times, the breakdown of the tour was very different to what it is now. You got a lot of invitation events then for the top players, and fewer ranking events now. Ranking events outnumber anything else significantly.
Six.
30 in front, Lisowski. So the pink and one more red needed. Yeah, last word on the way the circuit is set up these days. Nothing will ever be perfect.
62.
You can't please all the people all the time. But I think generally, World Snooker, Matchroom, Barry Hearn, all the people involved are doing a darn fine job. As Lisowski has done in this frame, that frame ball red wasn't easy.
63.
Nasty little shot that was that Jack was faced with, but he dealt with it quite nicely. It's been a good contribution this. Again, a couple of errors early on, but Jack Lisowski just getting his nose in front in this match.
70.
Be looking to try and just go through the gears, try and find another level. He's not quite found it just yet, but he's doing enough.
Jack Lisowski, 70.
Not quite as sharp as he wanted to be on that shot, because had he placed Thor in a snooker, that might well have put the topper on the frame. It was a snooker, but it was the most simple swerve imaginable. So Thor quite rightly carrying on. 44 adrift, 35 on. 3 snookers needed. And that should be that indeed. Rory just taps the brown in concession, and so Jack Lisowski, for the first time in the match, hits the front. He was 1-0 down, he was 2-1 down. Now though, Jackpot leads 3-2. Stuart Bingham forging on. 4-1 up on Oliver Sykes. Elliot Slesser 3-2 up on Long Zi Wang. Looks like Jimmy Robertson is going to take a 4-1 lead over Daniel Wells, although he's not quite there yet. Fan Zhengyi leads Florian Nursler 3-2. And Stephen Maguire going well in the frame immediately post-interval against Artemis Zizens, leading by 46 points with 5 reds left.
And just a quick look ahead to tomorrow's matches as well, Phil. What a matchup we've got tomorrow morning. Baiyu Liu against Scott Donaldson. She's played so well and looking to continue a brilliant run of form. What a match that could turn out to be. My good pal Oliver Lines as well taking on the Thunder Neil Robertson tomorrow evening. That one is going to be an absolute cracker.
You know, back in the day, Alison Fisher had some wonderful results against male players in the old Matchroom League. I was researching this for a piece I wrote in the Champion of Champions programme, actually, on Baiyu Liu. She acquitted herself really well in that Matchroom League in 1992 in particular. It was a tournament that went around the country, played in front of big crowds for big money. And that year, Alison Fisher defeated Neil Foal 6-2 and had 5-3 victories over Mike Hallett and Tony Drago. Can Bayou Lu create a stir as well? If she qualified for the UK Championship, that would be not wonderful for Scott Donaldson, obviously, but it would be wonderful for the game and wonderful for lady snooker. And that was a pretty wonderful shot from Jack Lisowski. Thing is with Bayou Lu, she scores. Last year, on her debut in the Women's World Championship, she made a 127 break. A record for the championship. This year, in winning it, she put together a break of 122. That was in the final. And in a Chinese Billiards and Snooker Association ranking event, she established a personal best, 142 total clearance, in beating Gao Yang, who's played on the Pro Tour with a certain amount of success. What she made here, Stephen, is it 7 or 8 half centuries so far in 2 matches? She scores.
Yeah, and it, you know, it's a fact. If you don't score, you don't succeed in this game now. The modern game is very much about heavy scoring. Oh, as Jack Lisowski misses a black off the spot, a collector's item. We saw a big black missed off the spot earlier on in the opening match this morning from Jiang Jun against Zhao Xingtong. We all know how that one ended up. Proved to be a very costly mistake in that match. Now, can Rory Thor capitalise on that crumb of error from Jack Lisowski?
Yeah, that will really annoy Lisowski because he was building up a head of steam.
Yes, but the modern game is all about scoring, Phil, and you're absolutely right. She's scored very nicely by Yulu. I think she plays the game properly. She's aggressive when she needs to be. She's positive. I like her. I think she's a brilliant player. She looks good, and she's got every chance. You know, Scott Donaldson is a tough match for her to be involved in tomorrow. But we said that before she played Jamie Jones last night, and she got the W. Can she do the same tomorrow morning, 9:30? Don't miss that one.
So what's that? I think it's 5:30 p.m. in China, so plenty of people will be watching there, and rightly so.
Now, good chance for Thor to land himself parallel on this black. And if he can do that, he's got a chance to go into the pack of reds, knowing that he's got that one loose red to the left as an insurance ball almost. He may have gone just slightly too far. He really needs to get into this cue ball now if he's going to play that cannon. He can just float this black in though with the detached red to the right of the pack. Just meant he was going to be a little further away from it than he would have liked.
Yeah, he's been to 2 world ranking event last 16s. We mentioned his win over Mark Williams earlier this season. We also mentioned his win over Lisowski 8 years ago. He's also beaten the likes of Gary Wilson and Luca Brissell. But I think this season he's playing a better brand of snooker than I've ever seen from him before.
Yeah, and perhaps that earlier spell from his career where he was on the tour for 6 or so years, you know, that was very much his apprenticeship on the professional circuit, and it's possibly been a bit of an eye-opener the 3 years he was away from the game before he regained his tour card in 2023. Obviously, you mature as a player, as a person.
36.
Perhaps he's just enjoying himself a bit more as well, trying to find a way to enjoy his snooker more. You can see that with the rhythm that he has around the table now. As you say, he's much more brisk, a bit more fluency to his game. He certainly looks like he's enjoying himself when he's out there at times. Yeah, and that's okay. He's got a red available.
44.
And he's pushed more into play, so this now very much a frame-winning chance for Rory Thor.
Far jaw, always a little wide. Head bowed. But immediately, Thor gets a second chance. Well, if that was his intention, he played that one beautifully. Jack Jones, runner-up to Karen Wilson in the World Championship this year. Just made a 90-plus break to take a 4-1 lead over Ian Burns. And there is the aforementioned Ian Burns. They're playing on table 2. On table 3, Oliver Sykes just about to pull a frame back against Stuart Bingham. In a moment, it's going to be 4-2 Bingham there. And the other streaming table this evening, table 4, Elliot Slesser 3-2 on Long Ziwang. this, you would assume, Stephen, is 3-3.
Yeah, and we're still no closer to uncovering a winner in this match. It's very difficult to pick between these two. From what we've seen so far, Jack Lisowski has looked a little bit dejected for my liking so far. Rory Thor's body language is certainly the better of the two. And you just feel that there is going to be that odd mistake coming from Jack Lisowski, and it's a question as whether Rory Thor can take the chance.
23. $30. 31. 38. 39. 39 and the frame.
The yellow stays on the table, but it was far too late to save Lisowski's bacon in frame 6. Apart from the opening frame, which Rory Thor stole after requiring a snooker, it's been fluent stuff. And it's on as even, 3-3. Scores on the non-streaming tables. Stephen Maguire 4-1 up on Artemis Zizens. 4-1 for Jimmy Robertson over Daniel Wells. It was 4-0 to Jackson Page over Jamie Clark at the interval. Now, though, it's 4-2. Clark on the comeback trail. And 4-2 the scoreline also for Fan Zhengyi over Florian Nursler. So many storylines, so many narratives and news, points of interest in this Victorian Plumbing UK Championship. And to catch up with it all on social media, simply follow World Snooker Tour throughout the championship on Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Match clips are there, interviews, behind the scenes content, and plenty more. And of course, if you want to see all of the live action, access Discovery Plus. There's live sport for everyone on Discovery Plus, including this UK Championship.
Frame 7. Rory Thor to break.
Where Rory Thor is giving as good as he's getting.
And of course, all day today and all day tomorrow, it's very much about booking your place in Judgment Day. If you haven't seen our Judgment Day coverage in the past here at the UK qualifiers or the World Championship qualifiers, very similar concepts between the two. Amazing days of snooker where we dip it in and out of all the tables as all the action unfolds. Every shot, every match result will come straight to it live to keep you bang up to date with it as it unfolds. The great legendary Rob Walker will be here as well, alongside Ken Doherty, hopefully. And when Rob Walker's in the building, the energy's always high.
Yeah, Rob was nominated for Commentator of the Year, actually. He went to the award ceremony last Thursday, I believe it was. for his work for Channel 4 on the Paralympics. The one big difference between Judgment Day at the UK and the World Championships is that every session in the UK Championship has results. Best of 19 frame matches in the world. Best of 11 frames here. This could be useful.
Quite a big target up in that balk area, yellow and green, both favourable options to try and rest in behind. Hasn't quite got the line this time, and the trouble with not taking advantage of an opportunity like that is that you feel, heading back to your seat, that the next time you come to the table, you'll be in trouble. Well, now that really is a massive target in behind those balk colours.
Just speaking generally, I think Lisowski needs to knuckle down, but that's something he's not naturally good at. He likes to win in stylish fashion. Well, he's got a chance here. Not an easy opening pot, but if it goes in, could lead to a significant number.
Six. Seven.
The reds are all quite nicely spread, but it seems to be quite congested around the pink and black spots. That black is well and truly out of commission for the time being, and there you see the pink spot is unavailable, so going up
13.
onto the next highest available spot, which is the brown. So only really got the blue to work off for the time being.
14. 19.
A first for me, this. First time I think I've commentated on a match refereed by Andrew Barklam. And first impressions are very favourable. I think he's doing a really good job.
26.
Back in the day, there was a referee from Wolverhampton with a very similar surname, Vic Bartlam, who refereed at the Crucible.
Yeah, they can make long days of snooker here in these qualifiers, and the officials do a very good job. Very often go unnoticed, doesn't it? You know, some of these guys are commentating back-to-back matches, and you know, you can get lucky and have a game which only lasts a couple of hours, or you can have matches like you just had a few hours ago, Phil, where it just seemed to go on forever, and you know, the referees have to stay alert, have to stay focused, as well as the players.
Yes, and this is Barklam's second match of the day. He officiated
33.
Zingzi Howe's win, 6-4, over Mitchell Mann this morning, which was not a sprint.
So the hard work pretty much starts now for Jack Lisowski if he's got any intentions of winning this frame at this visit. He's just doing the mental maths in his head, just trying to figure out which route to take here, how best to attack this break, how and if there's any value in trying to bring that black into play. He's got the pink back on its own spot now, which of course helps. Can he keep control enough of his cue ball to avoid having to bring that black into play?
What you find with these top guys is if the reds are open and they've got two of the three high value colours available, they can make that work. Obviously the black out of the reckoning for now.
48.
But pink and blue give Lisowski more than ample to work with. But if he's covered the pink spot, the pink will now go down on the brown. Big call this. So that complicates issues.
Yeah, he's possibly got the red far right of the screen and can just screw off the second red next to it, back up for the blue or pink. Well, he didn't quite get the desired contact off the second red, and he's left himself in, well, that's no man's land. You see the little contact off the first red and then catches the second red a little bit too full. Not able to get up high there for a nice angle on the blue. So again, decision time for Jack Lisowski. He's got a commanding lead in this frame. Can he rein it in, or is he going to try and pot his way out of trouble as he so often does? Yeah, he's 100% played the correct shot there.
Jack Lisowski, 55.
That was a two for the price of one. Yes, get the snooker, but also try and knock the blue as awkward as possible to stifle a counter-attack. And there's another 4 points to the total. Now that's the worst possible outcome. No contact and an easy red to start. 4-3 is beckoning. By the way, 4-3 is an actuality on table 3. Oliver Sykes fighting back from 4-1 down to within a single frame of Stuart Bingham.
7.
Athletic is Jack Lisowski. But even for him, that was quite a stretch. I'd be a million. My body shape at the moment, Stephen, I think I need the rest to break off with.
Jack Lisowski, 14 and the free.
77, Sunset Strip for Jack Lisowski, and with that, he goes in front again. He edged in front at 3-2, and as Stephen continues laughing while I'm trying to do this out, it's now 4-3.
I've gone.
Well, there's a first for everything. I've actually made someone laugh. But he's not laughing with me, he's laughing at me.
Now that I would love to see, you breaking off with the rest. Oh, brilliant.
I'll tell you what I would like to see. I'd like to see Kyron Wilson play an entire frame with the rest. That would be really interesting.
Against Sean Murphy.
Well, now there you have it. There's another player who believes he's the best. Mark Williams, he was chatting with Stephen Hendry and he was saying all this talk about Murphy and Kyron Wilson. I'm the best with the rest. And one thing I will say, last week he went for 30-odd pots with the rest and he missed only one of them.
That is a big statement from Willow, but mind you, he's just won the Champion of Champions. You can say what you want, even if it is nonsense.
I will say I think he's up there amongst the best, but Wilson will take some beating for me. Talking about Stephen Hendry, the Snooker Club podcast, which features the 7 times world champion, Mark Watson, and special guests, including my co-commentator Stephen Hallworth. They discuss all things snooker. Download it. The next episode will be available on the 25th of November.
Yeah, and if, like me, you enjoy listening to your podcast, it's actually a brilliant little conversation that, you know, just divulging and dissecting the most recent events, talking about the most informed players. It's very opinionated as well, you know. You got the likes of Hendry involved, Mark Watson, of course, Michael Holt as well when he's on there. It's a great listen if you obviously love your snooker like we all do. Talk about all the hot topics, the seasons ahead, and of course everyone's Fantasy 5 teams for the year, seeing how they're getting on, the points that are coming in. There's all sorts of action going on throughout the season.
You know, when it comes to opinions, I would rather hear an opinion I don't agree with than something that's bland. So I like the fact it's opinionated. So Lisowski 2 frames away from progress. 2 frames away from making it to the championship proper. if you're lucky enough to be attending the UK Championship, this year sponsored by Victorian Plumbing for the first time, don't forget, if you see people there with those purple T-shirts, they are from the World Snooker Tour's charity partner, Jessie May, Children's Hospice at Home. They really do astounding work for children with time-limiting conditions. So please, if you can, donate. It's a terrific cause. Has Rory got lost? Tell you one thing about Rory Thor, you know, he's quite well known in his native Malaysia because of his success in the Southeast Asian Games. He's won something like a dozen medals over the years in the team, singles and double events they have in snooker in the SCA Games. The most recent actually being the gold in Phnom Penh, Cambodia last year in single snooker. He completed the singles and doubles gold at the Southeast Asian Games in Singapore in 2015. And he won the 6-red singles in Myanmar in 2013.
You don't see many medals nowadays, do you? More silverware trophies. I remember a couple of seasons ago, was it in the Triple Crown events when you won them, you got a medal as well? Bring back the medals.
Frame 8. Jack Lisowski to break.
Well, on that theme of needing the rest to break off with, I think if I played a snooker match, I'd win bronze. A singles.
Another very important frame for Rory Thor to keep in touch with Jack Lisowski. I always feel in these best of 11 matches you have to keep your opponent away from 5 for as long as possible. The minute they reach that number 5, you always feel that they are going to get one chance to wrap the match up.
Can't be too harsh on Lisowski there. He actually cued that one quite nicely. The one word, the one descriptive word you could never use about these pockets, Stephen: generous. I'm not saying they're overly tight, but they're certainly not generous.
No, and I'll be honest, from playing yesterday, I actually thought they were quite nippy. And don't get me wrong, I have played on some tables in recent years that have been on the generous side, buckets if you like, it feels at times, but these certainly were not.
8.
Seen the odd one today as well, where a player has been up off the shot, having presumed that the ball was going to go in, and it's just rattled and stayed over the pocket. Which is how it should be, in my opinion. It requires more skill that way. You know, the bigger the pockets, the more of a level playing field it becomes. I think the majority of the players on the tour would prefer a tighter pocket. Although Rory wishes that that one was bigger.
Yeah, that was a really poor one. That wouldn't have gone in on a 9-ball table. Caught a lot of that left-hand jaw, top jaw. The first result of the night is in,
7.
and the beneficiary is Fan Zhengyi, who very famously beat Ronnie O'Sullivan in the final of the European Masters. Tonight he was 2-0 down to Florian Nursler, but then went on a scoring spree. Breaks of 104, 53, 133, 73 and 68 to clinch.
I always find it very interesting looking at those score sheets at the end of matches. You know, sometimes you can look and see all those big breaks and think, well, I've just been completely blown off the table, but it's always worth just having a look at the other guy's score. Sometimes you see like the odd point here and there that they have had the odd chance. It would be interesting to get Florian's views on how that match panned out in the end, whether he did have the odd chance here and there and just wasn't able to take them. But he's had a good couple of days, Florian, and that'll give him confidence going into the Q Tour events that he has coming up.
Yes, so Fan will now have tomorrow off. He comes back for the final qualifying round on Wednesday afternoon. Oh, look at that secondary whiz on the cue ball from Jack Lisowski. Didn't have a great amount of angle, you know, there. Manufactured it. This was simply brilliant.
Yeah, love that from Jack. Look at that. Beautiful shot. He was high of the parallel line there to the black ball and had to really manufacture some pace through that cue ball and get the whippage out, bring the Reds out with it. Beautifully played and absolutely deserves this scoring chance from it.
Get the whippage out. I like that one.
31.
I'll be borrowing that.
It's so good to watch when
32.
you see it pulled off like that. The cue ball, as you say, that secondary spin, you have to hit the white so sweetly to get that response. Exactly as played. He's almost bullying the cue ball into doing what he wants. Here we see it again. Watch the white go into these Reds. It goes in, and then it goes again. And that's exactly what he was looking to do to get those Reds open. Great shot.
Now, don't do anything stupid, because, of course, when he went 3-2 up, he was in first in frame 6 and missed a black off the spot. Not comparing Jack Lisowski to Alex Higgins, because, of course, Higgins was an all-time great who won the World Championship in 72 and 82 and won the UK Championship the following year in 83. One thing they have in common, though, apart from being crowd pleasers, you're always on the edge of your seat. You never quite know what they're going to do, good or bad.
Yeah, it's the unpredictability, isn't it, when you're watching Jack. As good as some of the balls he knocks in, it's like this type of shot. You could quite easily see him miss that, and it would just blow your mind away, the fact that he could miss such an elementary shot. He is susceptible to the odd one here and there, but he'll be hoping that he doesn't have any of them for the remainder of this match. It's just looking like he is starting to go through those gears now.
It must have been very tight as to whether he could get the cue ball through to pot the red. Just one more test of cueing to be passed.
61.
A ray of hope for Rory Thor.
Never easy then when you're trying to top that cue ball through. Always feels more comfortable stunning that type of shot in, where you can punch it, cue it a little bit more positively now. Well, he's had not a bad flick on the pink, but where will it go once it's been potted? Will it obstruct any of those three reds that are surely by its spot? If it'll go right slap bang in the middle of them, then he's had an absolute result, because that single red and pink were slightly tied up. Oh, and it will respot, so what a glorious opportunity this is for a counter-attack, a possible steal. All the reds in play now. Surely it's going to come down to this red on the top cushion. He has the angle to play on that now.
Now he has missed a similar red to this, to the opposite top corner pocket already tonight. Just grazed the top cushion before it arrived at the pocket. That was much better, and now, even though he's still facing a hefty deficit, you might well say he's favourite.
Yeah, nothing safe. All he has to do is keep good control of his cue ball and not make any careless errors. Just stay completely present, one ball at a time. Just make sure of every pot, because this is the potential for a big steal. As he pots this red, he releases the red above it to left corner. These are big moments, because it's frames like this in these best of 11 matches that really can make the difference. That's why I'm a big fan of these best of 11s. They're long enough to feel like a proper game of snooker, and they're also long enough for there to be twists and turns. And this could be a big twist.
Played that really nicely with deep screw and reverse side. Now, that really was a kick. You could tell it was a dull contact, and if you didn't see the shot, you heard it.
Well, you don't get many of them to the pound these days, do you? Not very often you see that.
Yeah, kicks that were so prevalent a decade ago, now almost non-existent.
Well, he's cleared the colours off the spots millions of times throughout his career, and that's exactly what he's faced with here, the 6 remaining colours for a steal.
40.
Can he just hold himself together to make the clearance, because that's all it's about now, holding yourself together, holding your nerve. Because round about now the nerves will just be starting to tingle inside. He knows this is a big chance to just keep in touch. Just land a little body blow to Jack Lisowski.
Twice, Lisowski's looked like seizing command. Frame 6. He'd won the previous 2 nicely, and he was in with a really good chance early. Mr. Black off its spot. And again here, on the threshold of 5-3. Now, though, surely it's going to be 4-4.
65.
A 65 clearance to steal frame 8 on the final black. Very well done to Rory Thor. Lisowski on 61. Mr. Mid-Range Red. Thor did the rest. He will not be defeated. Stubborn. And there, stylish. 4-4. So we know that Fan Zhengyi has completed victory this evening, 6-2 over Florian Nursler. In the final qualifying round, Fan will play either Ian Burns or Jack Jones. Looks like being Jack Jones because he's 5-1 up. Stuart Bingham still 4-3 over Oliver Sykes. It was 4-1 though to Bingham. Slowest going match of the evening. Elliot Slesser 3-2 on Long Ziwang. Stephen Maguire made a century recently. He's 5-2 up on Artemis Zizens. Also on the verge of victory, Jimmy Robertson 5-1 over Daniel Wells. It's a sterling fight back from Jamie Clark. He was 4-0 down at the interval. Hadn't potted a great amount of balls in the first half of the match, but now he trails Jackson Page only 4-3. And of course here, what was the best of 11 at the start has now been distilled into the best of 3. It wasn't a very good afternoon, but it's been a terrific evening.
Frame 9. Rory Thor to break.
So what started out as a best of 11 has now become a best of 3.
And you see this so often with Lisowski. Regardless of situation, he won't compromise. Always plays the same way. The pocket that cost him in the previous frame repels another red.
Always that little bit more difficult when your opponent has just stolen the previous frame with a counter-attack. All of a sudden the pocket just looks that little bit tighter. And it's very much up to Rory Thor to try and recognise the situation out there. I'm sure he is. You know that Jack Lisowski isn't 100% at the races today, and he'll probably sense that it's a chance to land another big scalp this season.
5. 6.
world number 78, Rory Thor.
13.
Remember, the promised land for keeping your card is the top 64, or
40.
the top 4 of the one-year list for the players outside the top 64. And at the moment, Thor lies 7th on that list, so a win here tonight would do him a power of good. Just as I say it, the black goes astray, and now
40.
the ball's open. Lisowski should be in.
And look at how far he's missed that black by. He's completely took his eye off that. His focus clearly on how he was going into the reds. But Jack Lisowski unable to capitalise because he's just caught the near jaw of that middle pocket. Now, Rory Thor has been quite fortunate, really, in how he left those reds. That wasn't a sitter for Jack Lisowski. Still expected him to knock it in, but he could have left something a lot easier than that.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, Stephen. I will say this, though, because he's such a phenomenal potter, Lisowski. I did expect him to knock that red in. But, of course, 4-4, the pressure is on.
And again, it highlights just how nippy these pockets are playing, because he didn't play that with a great deal of power. There wasn't much pace on it.
7.
And the pocket still didn't accept it. If you catch that near jaw on the middles, you've got to be very, very accurate, because they're just not going to allow it in. So a massive let-off for a missed black off the spot. That really is sort of rule number 1 in professional snooker. You just cannot afford to miss that type of shot when you've got your hand on the table. Especially when you're going into the reds. But as is with any unforced error, quickly forgotten if your opponent doesn't capitalise. That missed black off the spot will seem a thing of the past if Rory can rectify his mistake at this visit.
$90.
He has won the Asian Amateur Championship before, Rory Thor, no mean feat. He's not a classic Cuban, but he gets the job done. And I think what we've seen this season is the best version of him. Wanted to avoid ball colours there, mind you.
Is one of the poorest shots he's played all game at just the wrong time. He was trying to catch the thin edge of them and do little damage to the pack. Caught it much too thick. Look at where he's left the cue ball, but worse, look at where he left the red. He's played 2 howlers in this frame. Rory Thor, the missed black off the spot, and then that safety shot. And that may be very costly if Jack can negotiate this positional shot.
Bridging over balls, but He's very good with this kind of shot.
No.
And the green very much coming to his assistance. Mind you, it's hard to make the cue ball come back down here. He's done pretty well there.
12.
Yeah, it was one of them shots it can kind of reverse on itself, the cue ball, depending on where exactly you strike. So he's done very well to get some way down the table, but he's going to need another good pot. He's got a couple of reds, he's choosing the left one. This is not a sitter. Oh, and he's played it well and played the aggressive shot as well to try and just push that somewhat safe red closer to the corner pocket.
Now, though, with the cue ball and comfortably close to the side cushion, this is the definition of a pressure shot. Kept it nice and simple, backing himself to knock this red into middle.
20.
And even the red close to the cushion, close to the pocket.
28.
That's not too bad for a left-hander. Especially if you can
36.
obtain that angle.
37.
Slightly awkward bridging that. His hand was splayed across the table, across the cushion rail, but he played it brilliantly.
Yeah, and that little trace of angle on that red just allowed Jack to get his cue ball out into further into the table, which meant that the black was virtually unmissable, and now he's got the balls at his mercy to return the compliment to Rory Thor. This is exactly what Jack Lisowski needs to do. Pounce on the mistake from Rory Thor, because that was such a basic safety shot that he messed up a few moments ago, and a chance that I felt Jack just had to take.
$15 in front. Yellow, green and brown.
56.
We'll see Lisowski regain the advantage.
58.
Lisowski's sixth half century of the match, and given its timing, I think fair to say, Stephen, the most crucial so far, at least.
Yeah, because it just sets him up nicely going into what he hopes is the final frame. Trying to hit the ground running. That was a brilliant break from Jack Lisowski.
Jack Lisowski.
Wasn't it just? Under pressure as well. Mind you, Rory Thor, two bad mistakes there. He will be regretting both of them, particularly the safety error that allowed Lisowski to the table to go one up with two to play. Plenty of matches now see one of the players just a frame away from victory. Jack Jones was 5-1 up on Ian Burns. Burns salvaged the 7th. It remains 4-3 to Stuart Bingham over Oliver Sykes. And in the 8th frame, well, 4 reds left. It's been going for 34 minutes. Elliot Slesser battling hard and succeeding at the moment. He's 4-2 up on Longzi Wang. It's 5-3 now for Stephen Maguire over Artemis Zizins. The Latvian trying his best to pull off a famous recovery. Jimmy Robertson 5-2 on Daniel Wells. Jackson Page 5-3 over Jamie Clark. And while the referee is putting the balls back on the table, let me tell you tomorrow's bill of fare on the commentated matches. Tomorrow morning at 9:30 local time, Stephen will be back behind the microphone for Bayou Liu against Scott Donaldson. Tomorrow afternoon, David Hendon's here, and he will be commentating on Zhou Yulong against Hong Kong's Marco Fu. And then tomorrow night, Stephen and David will be in the box for Oliver Lyons against Australia's Neil Robertson. So a day to look forward to. And all of those matches will be in the 3rd qualifying round, as this one is.
And just a word on David Hendon. He's just produced an absolute perler of a dark stat, as we expect from him. Here's one for you, Phil. So Maguire has become only the 3rd player to make a century of centuries in the UK Championship. That 119 break is his 100th ton in the event. Only Ronnie O'Sullivan and Stephen Hendry sit higher on that list. That is a brilliant stat from Dave Hendon. And what a brilliant company that is for Stephen Maguire.
Yes, when it comes to that kind of thing, David is worth his weight in gold. We do tend to trade stats when we're at tournaments together, but he always gets the better of me.
Does he outstat you?
Very much so. It's rather annoying, actually, but at least I can admit it now. That was a superb pot. And if he's on the pink, a pretty good kiss.
I think he is on the pink. Such a good long pot as well. Going into danger. He's got zero fear, hasn't he, Jack Lisowski? Doesn't look at what can go wrong. He just thinks what can go right if this finds its destination, and it did do. And look what did go right. He found an angle to pot that pink and keep this break going now. A little bit of problem solving for him to do. Pink available, as you can see. Black a little bit tied up.
8.
Didn't quite get into the cue ball there as much as he wanted.
14.
So could be relying on this plant. And as you can see, it is a little risky with the distance between the two reds.
15.
Made it look easy.
Risk is Jack's middle name. You should know that by now, Phil.
Yeah, one of my favourite players to watch, but also I think one of the most infuriating players in a different way, because when he's at his best, he's outstanding.
And he's still not quite got perfect control of this cue ball. He's just chasing this break for the time being. He's probably 1 or 2 shots away from being back plumb. Pink looks to be sending the cue ball just into the red left of it, so no real control over where it will finish, so opting for the more difficult blue.
You know, coming in tonight, he wanted to win 6-0 in an hour. But I think if he can win this one at this visit, the way he's responded to growing adversity will do him a favour.
Yeah, I don't see how it can do him any harm at all coming through a match like this, because he has been tested. You know, there's been a couple of key moments in this match where he's had to come up with some answers. And right when he needed it most, at the death of this game, he's found a couple of really good answers, a couple of really good pots, positional shots, developing shots. Maybe just can reignite that spark into Jack Lisowski's belly. Because at the start of this match, I wasn't all that pleased to see his body language out there in the arena. He didn't look all that present to me. He's looking a lot better now, though. I love watching Jack Lisowski play, and I think any event that he's involved in is all the better for it.
I think he really is an enigma. And I think one of the reasons why snooker fans are infuriated by Jack Lisowski is because they want him to win so much. They want that talent to be converted into a trophy.
If he does come through this match, who does he play next, Phil?
The winner of your match tomorrow morning, Scott Donaldson and Bayou Liu.
48.
And if Bayou Liu does beat Donaldson, it would be hard to keep that one off the main table. Breaks of 70, 61, 70 again,
55.
55, 61, 76, and now this.
56.
Is Lisowski going to cap an evening of half centuries by producing a century, a clinching century?
It's strange because it isn't until you actually say those figures that you would believe that it's been that much of a convincing performance from Jack Lisowski. Just saying those numbers out loud sounds very much like it's been a domination from Jack, particularly in the scoring department. But the game, how it's unfolded, it hasn't felt that way. But it just shows how fluent Jack can be when he gets in. He scores very quickly, and you can quite easily forget about the breaks that he's made.
He's pretty much over the line. Rory Thor knows that. And he is over the line now. Yeah, Thor won the first frame, the only scrappy affair of the match. Snatched it after requiring a snooker. Thor made the highest break of the contest, 1-2-4 in the third frame to lead 2-1. And he stole the eighth with a 65 clearance to black. But Lisowski, he's produced under the gun.
'83. 84.
Positives for Rory Thor to take out of this match, but I think he will be disappointed, particularly the way he played in frame 9.
91.
Yeah, that's the look of someone who's disappointed.
Doesn't look all that comfy either, that.
97.
Could do with a pillow.
98.
And there is the ton, so a brilliant way for Jack Lisowski to cap off this win, chalking up a century break of his own. A performance that hasn't hit the heights that we so often see from him, but a performance that's been convincing enough. Jack Lisowski books his place into Judgment Day.
108.
I told myself coming into this match I wasn't going to say this, but I will. On one occasion, right at the end. With this talent, how has he not done better? There you go. The old chestnut.
117.
You just had to say it, didn't you, Phil?
I felt compelled after this break. What a way to get over the line.
123. Frame and the match.
He can't be bothered with the black. 1, 2, 3. Bingo for Jack Lisowski. 76 break in frame 9 was equally important, perhaps more so. He goes into the final qualifying round of the Victorian Plumbing UK Championship, defeating Rory Thor by 6 frames to 4. Next up on this table will be Tian Peng Fei against Chris Totten. They're coming back at 5-5. Let me just give you the other scores before we go. Jack Jones, he's 5-2 up on Ian Burns. Burns well ahead, though, in frame 8. 33 ahead with 4 reds left. Stuart Bingham, 5-3 up on Oliver Sykes. And in the balls at the start of frame 9. Elliot Slesser still 4-2 on Long Ziwang. Stephen Maguire, 5-3 over Artemis Zizens, who needs a snooker with 2 reds left in the 9th frame. Jimmy Robertson 5-2 over Daniel Wells, almost there. Same thing for Jackson Page over Jamie Clark at 5-3. So it just remains to tell you the action resumes again tomorrow at 9:30 here. Stephen Hallworth will be commentating on Baiyu Liu, the Women's World Champion. She's already won 2 matches. Can she complete the hat-trick against Scott Donaldson and provide Jack Lisowski's opposition in the final qualifying round? We'll find out tomorrow morning, 9:30 local time, here at the Mattioli Arena in Leicester. For tonight, though, it's bye-bye.